All right, before I bring in my panel, I want to bring in some late developing news on the very subject we're talking about tonight. We're getting reports that Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford, the woman in question who's bringing these accusations, will both testify in public on Monday. That, if true, answers a couple questions. There will be no vote this Thursday, and two, we will potentially be hearing from the two principals. So again, fluid here once we get confirmation on that, but at least that's the story that's percolating out of D.C. as we speak right now. And speaking of our panel, let's bring them in. Jeannie Zaino, professor of political science at Iona College, also senior advisor at the consulting firm Applied Techonomics. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Andrew, who you've already met. Okay, let's kind of unpack this from the beginning, Jeannie. Diane Feinstein, I understand she was put in a box here, which is the woman wanted her identity protected, but nonetheless she came forward. Feinstein made a few choices. Her rationale was that she wanted this to be about the positions and not about anything else that Mr. Kavanaugh has taken over his career. But she didn't tell the fellow Democrats in the committee, let alone the whole committee as an entity. And it was only after Farrow broke the story and others, or the woman felt she wasn't getting the exposure that she clearly wanted if she went to the senator, we go from here. Did Feinstein screw up, or did she not have any option other than keeping quiet?
I don't think Feinstein had many options here, and I think she did the right thing. What we know is Dr. Ford called the tip line at the Washington Post, reported this in July. She also contacted Feinstein. In both cases, she said very, very clearly she is not ready and does not want to come forward. And I think when you hear a potential victim of an assault say that, you have to respect that. And she didn't even want to come forward now. She said, once this started to get leaked over the last week and reporters started showing up at her job or her house,
name would get out, so
she said she had no choice but to come out. And we still don't know. I mean, you're reporting she's going to testify. She still has not said publicly, at least to the Washington Post or others, that she wants to testify. It sounds like she's going to. But so I'm not sure what people expect Diane Feinstein should have done, because I think it's very tough to say, you know, you have somebody who is an assault victim come to you confidentially, and then you're going to release that privately to other people or publicly. Certainly, I think that's a really, really tough call.
The impression, and I'm sorry to interrupt, the impression McConnell gave that everybody was caught off guard by this because Feinstein held it for a couple of months is just nonsense, because they had a response ready from 35 classmates of Kavanaugh's that came out the day after the allegations.
Yeah.
Right, that came out the day after the allegations were first levied, which you can't get 35 classmates of somebody from high school 25 years ago to sign a document within 24 hours. They had that prepped already. They knew that there was going to be an allegation that came forward in all likelihood, and they had that document ready to go because they released it within 24 hours.
They had to know from the FBI background.
Yeah.
This is the same thing that happened with Anita Hill. And so I agree with you. They knew this was out there. Whether they knew it was going to come out or not, I think is a different story.
He did pass, though, Dom, 6 background checks by the FBI. This is not Kavanaugh's first rodeo. He's gone through multiple confirmation processes. So we find ourselves now in this situation. It's interesting who you talk to. I've heard some women say, and you wonder why women don't come forward. Now, it's going to be a he said, she said. Her reputation will be impacted one way or the other on this. And conversely, people say, if you're Kavanaugh, I've heard some lawmakers say this on the right side of the aisle, it's a he said, she said, there's no evidence, and he will forever be tarred with someone like Clarence Thomas has never gotten over, even without substantive evidence that he must have done it, there's something wrong here. This is kind of where this whole Me Too has really peaked at this very defining moment. We've seen this happen certainly in Hollywood and other walks of life, but now it's happening right in Washington, and Franken's just an hors d'oeuvre to what we're talking about now.
And certainly it's bad timing for Judge Kavanaugh in terms of the Me Too movement and women's rights and so on. This couldn't come at a worse time. Oh, it couldn't come at a worse time for him. As far as the senator, Richard, I just don't understand to critics of hers, Feinstein, what else could she have done? Yeah. I mean, if you have a victim, an alleged victim, that does not want to come forward publicly.
Fine, I'll play devil's advocate with you, though. You're about to give a lifetime appointment to a lawmaker. I understand Democrats, by the way, are not all in lockstep that Feinstein did it the right way. She could have said, before we vote on this person, whether you agree or not with both his decisions and his writings and opinions that he's done over his judicial career, know that there might be also an open question. I'm not going to reveal names or anything else, but it's been brought to my attention that there's an outstanding allegation against him. If she had said that, then at least there would have been more of a hue and cry to get more facts. I know.
I'm shaking my head already, Richard.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't see how you do that. Number one, Diane Feinstein, a senator from California, goes out there and says that, and then this alleged victim, let's say she says, oh, I didn't say anything, there's nothing there, I have nothing to say. I mean, Diane Feinstein was caught between a rock and a hard place. You're told something, to Dominic's point. You don't know, you don't have evidence.
I wasn't suggesting you say that on the open floor in the Senate.
No,
I'm saying you go into...
And it is hard because he is going to be voting on Roe versus Wade, so many women's issues. But on the other hand, I don't know. I mean, at the very least, a really tough choice for Diane Feinstein.
But let me ask you, as a woman at the table here, I think what's interesting is if this happened a year ago, Jeannie, I'd hear a lot more people saying, "Ah, come on, that was 35 years ago," or, "Hey, if it happened, why didn't you come forward?" Some people have said that. But the percentage that say that now compared to like a year ago is a fraction. I think that there's been a lot of an education. But then I hear Orrin Hatch saying, even if it's true, even if he did this, let's look at the interregnum between age 17 and age 52. He's got 35 years here. He's a good guy. When you hear that, what do you say?
Well, I mean, I think people are saying some of these things more privately, but certainly to your point, publicly, I think we've all been sensitized to the fact that, you know, particularly in this environment, that you have to listen to the alleged victim here. And at the very least, we have to hear from her and from him and make a judgment. And I do think, by the way, some senators are going to come out, regardless of what they say, exactly where Orrin Hatch is. I think that's bound to happen. But I also think you can't discount the lessons from the Anita Hill era and the fact that they are sitting now before a Senate Judiciary Committee. At least this time, there's a couple women there. At least this time, you have some people of color. At least this time, this is not an all-white male Senate Judiciary Committee.
I do want to say, so that obviously there's, as Andrew said, the 100. We heard from one of them today, or more, but Andrew spoke to one of them today. But then there's the other element to this, which is Kavanaugh, Dr. Ford, who apparently will testify, the 100. But then there's the White House. For the most part, shockingly to me, the president has stayed silent, although he did weigh in here to say, I haven't seen any of it. But he said, you know, let this play out. Donald Jr., for folks who didn't see it, excuse me, take a look. Do we have that, guys, here? Donald Jr. decided to weigh in on this. And I think via Instagram, he put out this, where he posted or reposted it. Hi, Cindy, will you be my girlfriend? Yes, no, love, Brett. The idea I think the moron was trying to do was talk about how youthful indiscretion this might be. They are their worst enemy at times, or more than at times. That's unbelievable to me, that while this is going on, this is what a surrogate of the White House or the first son of this president's deciding would be wise to do.
Yeah, because rather than listening to the allegations, it's the political nature of the whole thing, that this must be some sort of movement afoot, you know, something scandalous by Democrats to try to make the president look bad. It's
also trivializing.
It is, but it's also what Trump's, pardon the expression, both that and the other concerns is the nature of the allegation itself. Yes, it happened in high school, but it's not an allegation of sexual harassment. It's not an allegation of bullying. It's not an allegation of, you know, inappropriate touching. All of which would be bad, but would potentially not be disqualified.
No, she considers this attempted rape.
Yeah, and from the way she described it, that's exactly what it was, if her description is correct.
And the president's son can trivialize this all he wants to, but consider in some states, age 17, you'd be on trial as an adult.
Yes. And while there's no criminal charges, there are a couple other corresponding facts. And this is going to, if you haven't heard this yet, you're going to hear this in the coming days. So apparently, the accuser, Dr. Ford, was going through years ago marriage counseling with her husband. And she recounted this exact incident that had happened and the impact that it had on her throughout her lifetime. And they have, and she's authorized here that her psychiatrist has all the contemporaneous notes here verifying. Her husband also has said this has been a story here that she has taught consistently. She apparently has taken a lie detector test with a former FBI official that verifies her story. Admissible in court? No. But these are all items. And moreover, Andrew mentioned earlier the third person in the room here, who went on to be both a writer and a filmmaker. While he denies that there was any such thing, in a lot of his writings, he had a character called Kavanaugh, who would get more than inebriated often. And while he doesn't describe this exact incident, it doesn't exactly paint a Boy Scout either here. So this is all going to play out over the course of this week, and the stakes, a lifetime appointment, potentially the swing vote in the Supreme Court, will of course continue to follow. Okay. Coming up next, a check on the midterm elections fast approaching and whether or not that blue wave we keep talking about will or won't happen. Are Democrats gaining momentum as the election day nears? We'll take a closer look.